All right, here we go. Fuel your body and focus your mind with Jocko Fuel. Save 10% when you use promo code Reyes Reflection. Hey, yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Reyes Reflection podcast. Make sure you aren't just listening. Make sure you are subscribing. Follow me on the socials at I'm Nathanael Reyes. Shout out to Mad Rabbit, Tattoo Aftercare. Tattoos are a lifetime investment, so invest in them lifetime. Save 20% when you use promo code Reyes Reflection. And Jocko Fuel, clean fuel, raw natural ingredients. I recently am all about that blue raspberry, so get yours today and save 10% when you use promo code Reyes Reflection. Now, on to the introduction of my guest. He is an empath, a singer, has a beautiful smile, is probably the only person that I've ever had on the show that I feel like their smile is a little bit better than mine. So without further ado, David Simmons, welcome to the pod.
Man, thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun.
No, of course. I really appreciate you. And off camera, there was a lot of issues, but we figured it out. We were able to make it work. So I want to learn a little bit about you. I see in some of the research here that you grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. Talk to me about your upbringing and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much a boring Midwestern upbringing. I have two younger brothers and an older sister. Um, yeah, I'm originally actually from Omaha, Nebraska, and moved to Kansas City my senior year of high school, but spent my life in Kansas City, so I consider that home, I guess. But yeah, while I was there, I didn't really do much. I just was kind of figuring out life, and I did some local singing, but it was more of a hobby and not anything serious.
Because
Um,
you're currently in LA right now, right?
yeah.
Okay. When did that transition happen then?
Wow. So in 2018, I met a singer. Her name is Shoshana Bean. If you're familiar with like Wicked, she did that on Broadway for a while. And she's kind of like a singer. So if you're a singer, you probably know who she is. But she contacted me via Instagram and weirdly had a cousin that lived in Kansas City. And she reached out to me and said she wanted to connect with me. We connected. She sat me down and was like, "Hey, what are you doing with your life?" And I was like, "Nothing." She's like, "You need to come to LA. And I think that you would, like be great there." And I was like, "Absolutely not. There's too many people there. Where would I even like find room?"
Especially being from the Midwest.
Yeah. I mean, that was like, like a pipe dream. There was just like, no, I thought if I tried to like do something like that, there would be no opportunity for someone to just like jump in and do stuff. Um, but I came, I mean, it was when she told me that it really just kind of sat in my brain for a couple months, and I just dropped everything and moved to LA.
How old were you when this happened?
That was 2018. I am 40 now. I'm bad at math.
I would say that was pretty recently.
Yeah. It feels like a long time ago, but it was not that long ago. It was like 5 years ago, I guess now.
And with 2.5 of those years, you being in lockdown, so you really didn't get to experience much of LA or adjust to it as quickly as other people could.
Yeah. Well, I feel like once I got here, it was kind of this weird thing where I instantly started working and kind of started making a name for myself out here, which I don't know till this day how these things were happening, but I started getting connected really quickly. And I felt like my career was actually like taking off. And then the pandemic hit, and it was just like for everyone, it was just kind of like flatline.
Go figure, as you're progressing in your career, it just
Yeah.
all of a sudden is like, yeah, by the way, David, we're gonna stop.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it just, like I said, it was like that for everyone. So it just was like just a wild time that when I think back on it, I'm like, we really lived through that. That's wild.
I remember during that time, I saw somebody post something on Twitter or X, I think it's called now, and they said it's kind of wild that there's gonna be we're in history and there's going to be chapters of this in a history book in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we live that, and we live that moment.
Yeah, I feel like we keep living just like these moments of like, it's the first time this has ever happened. And I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore.
You're like, there's no more first time, please.
Yeah.
No more. So I want to transition a little bit into this, The Voice. How did that become a reality for you? When was this something that you were going to risk, a challenge that you were going to embrace?
Wow. Okay. So the funny thing is, I auditioned for this show the second season that it was even like a thing. And I got to a point to where you like go through the process and you're like the next step is to get on the stage, and I just bombed bombed my audition like in front of the producers, and they were just like, I don't think you're ready yet. And I was glad that they didn't put me on TV because I was not ready. So to think back on that is hilarious because the me then is very different from the me now. um but yeah, it has. So it's been sitting with me since that moment. And that was in like, I don't even remember when the show started. So whenever the show started, however many
It's
seasons.
been a while. So like CeeLo Green, is that when you
Yeah.
were?
Yeah. Yeah. It was like the OG people.
So you auditioned back then, and back
Yes.
then, so David was probably maybe in his early 20s at that point in time.
Yep. I was like 24, maybe
Okay.
24,
And
25.
now this time David was able to use the experiences that he gained from singing in different venues, singing with different people. So how were you able to embrace this challenge?
Yeah, I feel like, and if you got a chance to, I guess, see my story on there, fear for me has just been a big thing. It's kind of something that has just been in my life. I feel like majority of the time, and I just have always been scared to put myself out there, to take a risk, to do anything out of my comfort zone, and um, also just like this fear of being rejected. I mean, you're going to get on a stage with people who are judging you. That's like my worst fear and like my nightmare. So I was like, I don't know if I really want to do this. And I think even auditioning for that early season, I was doing it because people were like, dude, you should do this. You should do this. You should do this. So I was like, okay, maybe I should. But I was scared out of my mind and really didn't want to do that. But I feel like just naturally growing, into an older age, you just have more life experience and you're
Yes.
put in different positions and situations where you just naturally grow. And so I feel like just naturally I gained more confidence in myself just in life, and I feel like that I was able to apply that to my music and to performing. And then coming out to LA, I was able to just really zone in on like wanting to step out of my comfort zone and just putting myself out there. And in that, I feel like it got me to this place of when I was um, presented with opportunity to be on this past season, or this current season, I guess. Um, I just kind of went for it, and it's like, I mean, I have no control over anything that happens. I'm just going to be me, and hopefully that resonates with people. And yeah.
I think you help segue into this because you said on TV that you had a hard time being who you truly were for a little bit. And a big portion of that you opened up on TV about your story is that you said from a young age you always knew that you were gay,
Mhm.
and that you always knew that that was something that was challenging for you because you grew up in a religious household similar to me. I grew up in a religious household. So I completely understand that. And then you said that you don't allow fear to run your life anymore.
Yeah.
And you even said that you had the courage to come out to your dad at the age of 27. What was it like to have your dad support you during that time, especially when you were unsure of who you were as a person?
Yeah. So it's wild. My relationship with my dad, like I felt like we were close in that we were in each other's lives, but we just were always trying to find some way to connect. And there was always just no way to do that. And I just think that he always was wondering, like, why can't like we hang out? Like, why is that so weird?
Where's the disconnect here? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I just would always shut him away because I was like, there's no way you're gonna understand this. So I didn't even give him the time to or like place to try to figure that out. I just assumed that he would like condemn me. And I don't know. I feel like in life sometimes you just kind of hit a ceiling and you get to a point where you're just like, I don't have the energy to like fake it anymore. I can't do that anymore. And I think that I had kind of gotten to that place and I really wanted to, connect with my dad. Like that was something that I was really interested in doing. And so I just kind of that I feel like that was the first like biggest risk I ever taken. And I was just worried that he was going to hate me, but I was like, well, I mean, he either will hate me or not. That's just kind of the options I have here. And I was willing to kind of just bet on him, like not doing that. And thankfully, it ended up working out where he was willing to just see me like completely. Everybody wants to be seen in that way. And thankfully, that's kind of like the outcome that came out of me just taking this risk of telling him who I am. And it's been like this uphill journey since. And I mean, he told me that he loved me and that there was nothing I can do outside of that. But there was still always this like religious connotation to it at first, where I still felt like even me mentioning or talking about me being gay was still at like an arm's length. And I didn't know how to navigate that. But over time, again, you just kind of naturally grow. And I feel like if you continue to leave the door open for someone and allow them to still process that, because I think that I didn't think about, he had a dream for my life too. And that dream for him had to die as well as like everything else. So I had to let him work through those emotions. And now we're just like the tightest. And he like even asked me about like who I'm dating and stuff like that. And I just never saw a day where that would even happen.
Where your dad would be so supportive in that regard.
Yeah, yeah. So to have him on the show too was just like, it just was kind of this full circle moment of him just like being really present in my life.
What piece of advice would you give to someone who's afraid to take that risk?
Woo, take your time. I mean, it's different for everyone. Everyone has their kind of their own experience and their own insecurities and fears, and I think that those are valid and real.
Yeah.
So take your time, um, and whenever you're ready, uh, yeah, find the safest place you can, and yeah, just kind of like take your time. That's
Take your time.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Because I mean, me coming out so late, I felt like, wow, I'm doing this at such a older age, and like I wish I would have did it when I was younger. But I think that it happened when it needed to happen, and I think that that was important for me to really rest in. That I'm glad that I took the time that I did because I wasn't ready until I was ready. And I
Right.
think for anyone kind of wanting to share that with someone, I think yeah, just whenever you're ready, that's when you should be able to do it.
I love that. I love that piece of advice. You had touched up on that. Your dad and sister were there watching your blinds. You sang the song Tainted Love. Why did you choose that song?
Well, I guess I don't know. I think it was just a song I thought would be a little different because it was a different arrangement. So I thought that that would be cool to like bring a familiar song but with a different vibe to it. I consider myself kind of an R&B soul artist, and I felt like the even because I feel like people too are they know the 80s version of that song, which is kind of like this 80s synth pop song.
Hmm.
But the original version was from this woman named Gloria Jones, and it was like a soul song originally. So I kind of tried to channel that and thought that that would be cool to bring to the show. Um,
Nice little element and a change of. I thought so too. I thought you did a good job at showing different aspects of that song and who you are as an artist.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, and it kind of stinks because they didn't actually show my full audition, But yeah, I think that was kind of my mindset is I just wanted to be different and show that what I like to like try to make songs that maybe necessarily don't sound like something an R&B solo artist would sing and change it into that version of a song. So
Mhm.
I just tried to bring that, I guess, to the stage.
And I thought you did an excellent job, despite the fact that you didn't get a chair turn. What keeps you motivated to perform despite the fact that you didn't get that chair turn? I know it doesn't define who you are as an artist. I
Yeah,
think sometimes that does get stuck in people's head because it's on such a national scale. But like all things, sometimes you have a bad day, or sometimes they didn't hear something they like, but that doesn't mean that you're not a credible artist.
right.
But what keeps David motivated?
Yeah, that's a good question. I just love to sing. Singing is something that I love. It's something that I know that is like one of the things I know I'm good at. It's something that I know I can do.
Nice.
So I think just through life, like anybody, I think I've always had moments where I didn't feel that, or I felt like, oh, people don't like my voice, or I'm not a good singer, or all that kind of stuff. I've definitely dealt with that. But I think, especially at my age, just really knowing myself and honing in on who I am, I just know who I am. And I'm okay with some people are gonna vibe with it, some people aren't, but that doesn't mean anything really. um, Especially in an art setting, art it can be very subjective, and some people will connect to a certain like form of art and some people won't. But like you said, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're awful at what you're doing. It just,
Not at all, man.
yeah. And especially in moments like this, like really you get 90 seconds for your blind audition to kind of make this impact. And that is a short amount of time to do that.
It is.
So, yeah, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. But also, I think rejection and like learning from that is a part of like it's a part of the journey. So
Mhm.
trying to take those moments and allowing that to be a growth opportunity instead of like a thing where it's saying like I shouldn't do this anymore. And I definitely walked away from it feeling a little defeated. But you just get back up and keep going.
I think you brought up a really good point that it is art. I even forgot about that until you brought it up, until you said it's a different type of art form, and it's true. Singing is an art, and it's something that I completely forgot until you just brought it up. And you're right. There are different aspects of art in which it hits as a different type of audience.
Yeah.
Even thinking of myself who's gone to a museum, I go, why is that in a museum? But then there's other people it hits for them.
Yeah.
So similarly with singing, there's going to be some times where you're like, this is not it for me. But then there's going to be other times where you're like, boom, that's the one. So I like that you brought that up. I like that you touched on that. And I also love that you are still going because, as you mentioned, rejection is a big part of life. You're going to get more no's in this life than you will get yeses.
Oh,
That is just the way life works. I've always found it's how you respond to the no's rather than getting the no itself. You almost need that
absolutely.
failure. You need to learn from the failure so that
Yes.
way you're able to grow from that. So you unintentionally just gave a great piece of advice. So thank you so much for doing that.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome.
Talk to me about Scary Pockets. What's Scary Pockets?
Oh man. So Scary Pockets is this kind of collective of artists and musicians who I think they just take familiar songs and as they say, funk it up. And so they try to make it like this funky soul vibe. And a friend of mine, I connected with a friend of mine who was a part of that group, and he kind of mentioned my name to them and thought I would be a good fit. And they called me in, and I think I sang "To Make You Feel My Love" and "Somewhere Only We Know," and we just like rearranged them to kind of sound like a Bill Withers song, which once that happened, I was like, I am sold on this group. This is fun. This is amazing. And it is like a one session take kind of thing. So you kind of go in there and you don't know what the vibe is going to be until you get there. And then you just kind of form this like song as you're in the session. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
like really cool in that way that you just kind of like learn to hone in like your own craft and just be ready for whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that rendition of Tainted Love came out of that group. So yeah, they're just a fun group of guys and girls who just love music and like to switch it up.
Is this an accurate statement by me asking, is it almost improv, but with singing?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good way to that's probably the best way to put it. Yeah. You
That is really impressive. That
yeah,
is really
'cause
cool. And it's challenging and it keeps you on your toes. You have to be ready.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because also too, like I know how to play a few instruments like by ear, but nothing great. So to watch them do what they do is just like mind blowing. And then you get to add your like whatever vocal element you want to it. It's just like magic when it
Wow.
happens. Cause it's like I said, you just walk in and you know the original way the song has been done,
Yep.
but you have no idea how they're gonna flip it. And you just
So
have to
you have to put your own spin on that song.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. That's really cool. I like
Yeah.
it. That's
Yeah.
really fun. It sounds fun. I wish I could be a part of it, but I'm not a singer and I would probably be kicked out. Talk to me about the Be Black show.
Yes. So, a friend of mine, her name is Keisha Chantrell. She's an amazing artist. She reached out to me and she was kind of just thinking of a night where artists, black artists, were able to kind of just be highlighted and share whatever they wanted to share in a space. If you're not familiar with Hotel Cafe, it's just an amazing space here in LA where a lot of people kind of have gone through, and it's very chill and like low stakes as far as like like you don't have to like have tons of people show up in order for it to be this amazing thing because the vibe in there is so laid back and chill. um yeah, and so four of us, me, Revel Day, India Carney, and Keisha Chantrell, we're all just gonna share 20 minutes of some covers or original stuff for the night. And I think it's the first time that they've done this show called Be Black. So we're kind of like the first people to be able to present this new night.
One request on your Christmas album, which is excellent, by the way, this upcoming holiday season, can you perform a version of Last Christmas for me?
Yes, I love that song actually, and have been looking for a way to put my own spin on it. So, absolutely.
That is my favorite Christmas song of all time. So I can't wait. I can't wait. Are you ready for some burning questions?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. You claim to be a horror fanatic.
Yes.
What is your favorite horror movie franchise?
Oh my gosh. So, I am a zombie like crazy I love zombies. I don't know
Okay.
why. But um I don't know. I guess the Walking Dead franchise was my favorite just because it's centered around that. But then it kind of,
Yes.
I don't know, it has gone on forever. So, and I can't keep up. But anything zombie. So for me, it was like Night of the Living Dead, the original black and white one. And then they redid it in the 90s. And then
Yep.
they did um, Day of the Dead. And
Yes, I do remember that. Yes.
yeah, and I just am obsessed with this idea of dead people coming back to life. Which is weird, but I'm into it.
What do you think about the Saw series? What's your take on that?
Ooh, I love the first one.
The first,
It
you and
was
I are good friends. Absolutely.
because it was just like this new idea that I was like, "What? This is wild." But then it like I don't do well with like just like slicing people up just for the sake of doing that, like I think that that's kind of gross. But I can't, and also like I just can't. There's so many now, I can't keep up with them. I actually went
Yes.
and saw the new one that just released.
You saw. Okay.
Yeah, and it went back to the original kind of format and like original guy, so it was
Yes.
cool because it like was a continuation of the old story instead of like these offshoots that they've done.
In some aspect, I have seen every single one of them, so I can't act like I haven't watched them. But I do agree with you that the almost the spin-offs or the it's hard to it's like a web and it's hard to connect it
Yeah,
when it's all the way out there and it shows a cameo of the original guy, but he's here and everyone else is there. So I do understand what you mean, but you're right, that first one I remember watching and I'm like, what do you mean
yeah,
he's the guy on the ground, he's
yeah,
the bad guy? And it's just blew your mind, it blew your mind back then because it was
yeah,
also a different time too.
yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, and it was like just this new take on horror that I hadn't seen before, and I was just like, I'm on board.
I'm for this. And then they kind of went off the rails a little bit.
Yeah,
Actually, my first introduction to horror movies was so my dad is not originally from America. He was an immigrant and from El Salvador, and I would Blockbuster and Hollywood Video was really big. For you
oh yeah,
youngins that don't know what that is, you it wasn't the streaming service that you had at your disposal. You had to actually leave your house to go rent these movies and these video
that
games.
was my
And
first
so
job.
was it really?
Yeah,
I mean, dude, those were great times. I
yeah,
loved like it was just and then you got the bucket of candy and popcorn for like $10 and it
yeah.
was just a really cool and it had like a grab bag. So, but anyways, and get this, you had to actually return the movie. So you had to go ahead and if it was closed, they had a drop box that you could put it
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
Yes. Yes. So my father didn't understand what horror was and what stuff like that was just because as I mentioned, he was an immigrant. My folks were split and us brothers, we would pull the wool over my dad's eyes as kids do. They take an inch and they make a mile.
yeah.
And we would rent Halloween, Friday the 13th,
Oh, man.
even Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, like those things. So we
Yeah.
would rent all this stuff, and he didn't understand that it was actually not meant for kids that were 10, 11, 12. And so, but yes, so I'm a big horror movie fan as well. And a lot of that stems from me not being a good son and lying to my dad. But I love you, Dad. I appreciate that you forgave me for that.
Shout out to
So,
dad.
shout out, Dad. What does David like to do that is not music related?
Oh, man. I love to eat. I love food. That
Good.
sounds
What would you say is your favorite grouping of food or
I mean, I love
region?
junk food.
Junk food. Okay.
Yeah. I'm a vegan, which is
Interesting.
I don't even know what that really means anymore because I just like so I like eating burgers and fries and nachos and stuff like that, but it's
Okay.
all like impossible meat.
So that's considered vegan junk food still, like burgers, fries, even though
Oh,
they're impossible?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I mean, I don't know. I guess when you think of health, you think of like a salad or fruit and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I'll eat that
But listen, my
occasionally.
friend, sometimes I'm really bad with those salads. Sometimes I'm like chicken, the tortilla strips, like
Oh yeah,
and I put like the little all the dressing on it. So I can it can be pretty bad out there.
yeah. And I feel like the only reason why I'm vegan is because one Thanksgiving, like Thanksgiving, you like eat. And
Yes.
I felt like, whenever you eat, especially during Thanksgiving, I like want to take a nap because I've eaten so much. But being vegan, I felt like I can eat continuously and not get that feeling because I just want
Yeah.
to stuff my face all the time. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
where I'm
No.
at with
Yeah,
that.
because then you sit there and you're like, oh, and your stomach almost hurts after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
No, I
felt like
agree.
this was just like my loophole to eat more.
How long would you wait in line at a restaurant before David thinks it's too long to wait?
I am a very patient person.
Okay.
So if I really want it, I will wait
You will.
for as
Okay.
long as I don't even, it doesn't even matter.
So if the waitress says to you, or waiter says to you, it's a 2-hour wait and you really want it, you will wait 2 hours for it?
Sure.
David, you are a saint, my friend.
I mean, we've got computers in our hands now. I'll just watch something on my phone and chill until.
Okay. I am not like that, admittingly. I am the type that, like, if I'm hungry, I need to eat now. And there's also been moments where, to me, I'm like, there's no way that this burger or this fries or whatever I'm waiting for is worth a hour and a half wait. That's just me, though. That is me.
Yes. No, I get that. And I think I generally go to places that are not, there's never a line.
Yes.
And vegan junk food is that way, thankfully. But yeah, there's been instances, I guess, where I've waited more than probably most people would.
Okay. All right. So, David, you are a very patient person. Actually, for the people who don't know, I can actually go ahead and agree with that statement because prior to this, like I had mentioned off camera, we were having technical issues on my end, and David was sitting there patiently being so kind to me, telling me it's okay, he understood. And so
Oh,
I
yeah.
I can go ahead and say that I agree with that. And David, you are an incredibly patient individual. So,
Oh, thanks, man.
if you could create a theme park, what would David name it?
Oh God. Um, I would name it uh, David's House of Horrors, probably,
Oh,
or
so it'd
some.
be like a scary park.
Yeah, yeah. I would be into that. I think that'd be fun.
So are you into those haunted house attractions
Oh
and
yeah,
those? Yes, me too. Me too.
yeah.
Ha
I
has there
recently.
ever been one that legitimately scared you?
I do not like any time they do the chainsaw chasing, where
Oh,
someone chases you with like a not a real chainsaw, but like just that sound is makes me very unsettled. So I
I
try to
I would
like inconspicuously like walk past them, but they'll find me and chase me, and I don't like it.
I would have to agree. A little of mine is from PTSD. So when I was in high school, I went to one where they had a haunted hayride, and they had someone with that chainsaw. And so you're sitting on the haunted hayride, okay?
Yeah,
And so this is maybe 16, 17-year-old Nathaniel. And I didn't know that they took the gears off of it. So the gasoline is real, the chainsaw is real, but it's not going to harm you unless they really touch you with it because it's just moving metal at that point. So,
right.
but nonetheless, so I'm sitting there, right? My legs open, and this individual, because I'm just having a good time, heckling the workers, and this individual takes the chainsaw, goes like that right in between my legs, and I did not know that the gear was off. So here I am worried that my life is going to be ruined because this individual is going to cut off you know what. So I was completely scared out of my mind
That is a
that this
valid.
individual had a chainsaw that close to me.
Yeah,
And yeah, so I that is I from PTSD, I'm right there with you. I'm not a big fan of those chainsaws.
yeah. I feel that was a very valid response to
Yes.
that.
Before we end this about the horror, would you say is the scariest movie you've ever watched? I'm curious about that.
Ooh, I just had this conversation with somebody the other day. I feel like for me, when I saw the movie The Ring,
Okay.
I could not like I had to sleep with my lights on and my
You did. Okay, so
TV.
that one got you.
Yeah. I was just like a little girl is going to come out of my TV. That is a thing that's going to happen. I have to sleep with the lights on.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I've seen Rob Zombie movies. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those.
Oh yeah.
They freak me out. They free.
Yeah, he
He's a
goes
he.
there.
Yeah, he goes there. House of a Thousand Corpses. That one freaked me
Yeah,
out. I said
yeah.
to myself, I'm never traveling in a car like that out in a secluded area.
No.
And then another one that he did was centered around the time when the clowns epidemic
Oh,
was going on. Do you
yeah.
remember that? The
Yes.
31, I think that's what it's called.
Yep. I remember
And
that.
it was evil clowns that would just grab you and then they put you in this little house of horror.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which clowns generally don't scare me. I'm not like scared of clowns, but there's something about, especially too after seeing that, and then when they revamped it, I was like, yeah,
you know,
that's a
I'm the
creepy.
same way. Clowns never really bothered me. My younger brother was like, I don't do clowns, but I agree with you. After those two films, I was like, okay, I'm
Yeah,
gonna keep my distance from clowns for a little bit.
yeah.
Social distancing.
And then wasn't there like a time too where people in real life were like, just like you would like be driving down the highway and they were like posted up, like trying to scare people.
Yes, that was a time. And honestly, I have two trains of thought to that. One, creepy as can be.
Yeah.
My second train of thought is, bro or sis, do you really not have that much? Do you really have that much time on your hands?
Right.
I don't know why that's where my mind goes. My mind goes, why are you sitting doing this? Shouldn't you be working? Can't you volunteer? Can't you donate to charity? Can't you go walk a dog?
Man,
Can't you do something like that other than terrorize me? All right, chat pack time.
okay.
Your question will be left to the chat pack. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thinking back to all the great TV series that you have seen over the years, which one do you believe had the best final episode?
Oh,
Ooh, this is in depth.
that is a hard question.
It is a really hard one. I'm over here going, wow, I don't know if I could answer that.
So I have to preface it with I struggle with like watching shows because I
Me too.
can't commit
Me too.
to like a full series anymore. Um
Are you the same as me in the sense that the few shows that you have watched, you're loyal to them, but it's hard for you to get into a new one?
yes.
I'm the same
Yes.
way.
So like I only have Netflix for because I was like into Stranger Things and I just would like wait for that to like start again. But
Okay.
I just mind like I scroll and scroll and scroll because I don't want to like make a choice.
Same. Same. And I hear all these people when they're like, "Oh, this show, this show, this show, this show," and I'm like, I
I
still
haven't seen
watch King of Queens.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yeah. So like my mind automatically when you ask that, my mind automatically goes to like 90s TV because I feel like that was the last time I like watched
Sat and
show.
watched TV.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess to answer that question, I don't even know. Uh let's say Full House.
Full House. Boom. I like John Stamos. Although when I used to watch Full House growing up, I used to sit there and say I wanted my family to be like that, just
Same,
because of how close knit they were, and
same.
yeah, it was a good time. It was a good, and I always grew up watching that and picturing myself in that. Same thing with I want to think of another. What's that other show? Urkel.
Family
Family
Matters.
Matters. I
Yes.
always was like, I hope I have a neighbor like him
Me
that would
too.
just that would just come in unannounced, but
Yes.
be hilarious.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And also the theme songs were always like on point.
Oh, they totally were. They were fantastic. Those theme songs,
Yeah.
they don't hit nowadays now. They
No.
do not. The
No.
theme songs aren't justice. It's like 5-10 seconds. That
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I want to see the cast, the crew. Go ahead and show me them in a
Yeah.
silly and they did a great job at like whenever they would show Jaleel White or John Stamos, Lori Laughlin, and things, and they would be doing mindless things, and then all of a sudden
It
they
was
would pan at the camera and
yeah.
pose. Eh.
Yes, that was it was such a like moment that I'm glad I grew up in
Oh, I
because
totally
it was the
agree.
best.
I feel like anyone from, because I'm gonna be 30. I feel like anyone from 30 to like 42 grew up in like the best era because
Agree.
we're young enough where we can understand technology and use it to help us, and it's not confusing the hell out of us all the time.
Yep.
But we're also old enough to remember the 90s and things of that nature. Like one of the things I love, and this is what my TikTok algorithm always hits. I'll get videos of if you grew up in the 90s and it will show this nostalgia of
Oh, that is
food that we grew up with and
we are the
TV
same.
shows.
That
Yes,
is my feed too.
that's my TikTok feed all the time. It's always, and it's that cheesy song, but I'll scroll through every single one and I remember Pizza Hut in the 90s. I'm like, "Yes, I
Yeah,
remember that."
same. I just literally did that last night.
Yes. So did I. Every night, I scroll through and I'm like, it makes me sad. And I one time saw this one. Maybe you remember these, the Disney blankets of like Lion King,
Oh,
Cinderella,
yeah. Yeah.
Aladdin. Although the one time I saw something in the comments, this one I don't laugh out loud too often when I'm on social media, but this one did. It said, "I just smell the pee when I look at these photos,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, that was me and all my brothers.
Yep, yep,
Yes.
that
Yep.
is a true statement.
It, like I said, we grew up in great times.
Yes, we did.
As we're talking about social media and things of that, plug in your socials, your music page. Where can people find you, listen to you, and experience David?
Yeah, I'm all over every social I'm not on I was on Twitter, I'm not on Twitter anymore. But you can find me on Instagram at @dsimi. I am on TikTok at @dsimi82. Um, I have music on Spotify and Apple Music. And also, if you listen to Scary Pockets, you'll find me kind of sprinkled throughout there as well.
Yes, a lot of features. So does that mean you're gonna be 41?
Yeah, and December, my birthday is Christmas Eve,
Is it
so
really? Oh
mhm,
wow. Okay.
so it's
All
coming
right.
up,
Coming up, the big 4-1. I got the big 3-0 coming up next month.
man. My 30s were great, so you're gonna love it.
I do feel that way. I feel like, first of all, I hated my 20s. I hated them. I was
Yeah.
socially awkward. No, I'm just kidding. No, and you discover a lot who you are in your 20s. That's what I
Yes.
found. I discovered a lot of who I was.
Yep.
And now I know who I am.
Yeah.
So now my 30s, I'm going to be able to rock it because I'm going to know who I am. I feel like in your 20s, you are experiencing almost this identity crisis of who
Oh,
you
absolutely.
are, who you want to be, who you want society to see you as. And then when you get to a point where you're like, this is who I am, and I really don't care who likes it or doesn't like it, and this is
Yeah.
me, and I'm secure in who I am,
Yeah.
then you experience life to its fullest. And so thank you so much. I'm excited for my 30s, and I'm excited that you are turning 41 because, my friend, for the visual audience, you'll see he does not look 41. Not in the slightest. Like I
Oh,
said, you have a $1 million smile, man.
thanks so much.
Of course, of course. Well, David, thank you so much for doing this. You are now sworn in as a friend of the show. It's like being an
Yes.
Avenger. Okay, there you go. Or like in a cool music group or anything like that. So,
Love it.
thank you so much for doing this, my friend.
Man, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Of course. That is going to do it for this episode of the Raise Reflection podcast. Share me, tell everybody, tell your mom, tell your grandma, share Nathanael, share the Raise Reflection. That's how we will grow. And as always, may you live, may you love, and may you thrive. I'm Oprah in a male version. I'm also uglier. And you get a car, you get a car. I love you all. Be bold, be you. Tattoo skincare made easy with Mad Rabbit Tattoo Aftercare. Save 20% when you use promo code Reyes Reflection.